Welcome back everybody, it's certainly been a little while. Today we're going to be taking a look at a graphics card that was considered end of life just a few years before Windows 10 even released. The ATI Radeon HD-4670, which released back in 2008, which is over 16 years ago, and only 2 years after the AMD acquisition, is by all means a pretty interesting card. Retailing at only $67, this seemed like quite a good budget option for those who really needed a GPU. That would have only been around $98 if you bought that in 2024, which, to be fair, the only real GPUs around that price range today is an Intel Arc GPU. At least new. Our specific model here is an H.I.S. IceQ variant that came in with a whole whopping 1GB of GDDR3 RAM. While it does look very cool, this was a pain in the ass to get the thermal paste redone. To have this custom cooler design, the manufacturers used spacers to gain the necessary clearance for the fan and heatsink. I had to hope and pray that the spacers would just stay still while I tried to put the screws back in when I'm closing it up, but they didn't. Quite a few times they didn't. It was fun. What the fuck? Oh! Oh shit, were those spacers? Uh-oh. But that's not here nor there. How about the specs, however? Besides the 1GB of VRAM, we've got our clocks running at 750 on the core and 1700 on the memory, all running on a 128-bit PCIe 2 interface. It doesn't need a 6 or 8 pin PCIe connector and comes with 2 dual-link DVI ports with an S-video out. Yeah, that little connector that came out in 1979, that one, for some reason. Now, while I would like to say it's as simple as plopping it into our PC and turning it on, that only gets us about part of the way. Why in God's name is my display cropped? I have the latest drivers apparently available for the Windows Updater, and no, AMD will not have Windows 10 drivers on their website. It apparently caps out at Windows 8, which also doesn't do anything to fix it. Unfortunately, this is our first real roadblock here. I'm not gonna downgrade my system to Windows 7 or 8, and especially not Vista or XP of all things. Custom drivers seem to be out of the question. No matter what I tinkered with, it never really seemed to install properly, although that could very well just be a literal skill issue on my part. Without current drivers, I doubt we could run any game. Even just booting Half-Life 1 didn't look right at all. So, where do we go from here? Linux drivers, huh? They're old, but perhaps with the power of open source we could salvage something from this. At least something to keep the black bars away. I haven't covered Linux on this channel, but it has always been something that interests me. I have Linux Mint on one of my laptops, and even on my main computer, just in case Windows 11 kinda sucks, you know? Mayhap it can breathe new life into this aging hardware too. Alright, so I ordered a new drive, installed the tried and true Linux Mint, and it literally just works fine. No scaling issues, updated everything without a hitch. Guess we'll be testing its efficacy on modern day Linux. Captured all with my standard HD 60 Plus capture card. First up is a standard YouTube playback test through Firefox, and it surprisingly handles it quite well in my opinion. 720p 60 and 1080p 60 work fine enough, although only in full screen. Otherwise it seems to have a lot of issues with frame skipping. This is compounded when we bump it up to 1440p, where if you didn't touch it after choosing the resolution, it's fine. Otherwise, messing with it in any way will cause dropped frames, especially pausing and unpausing. The audio is also mostly fine, unless you pause it a bit too long, where it kinda has to figure out what it's supposed to be doing. Strange, but hardly a deal breaker. Yet. We'll get to that. 4K is, unsurprisingly, not very well supported, but this is still a pretty good win for such an old GPU. This is VP09, a codec that was released 5 years after this GPU. If we take into account things like H.264 and forcing 30 FPS, YouTube shouldn't give you too much trouble. Now for the real challenge. How does it fare in playing some games? Of course, it's gonna be a little bit iffy. Linux gaming isn't fully 100% even with Proton and such, but I don't have doubt that it'd be a better time than whatever this is. Unfortunately, speaking of Proton, it doesn't work. Any game I've tried to get it working with leads to even worse performance and the audio just being completely bugged. Probably having something to do with how it tries to translate with Proton, but I'm very unsure. For now, we're stuck running games natively on Linux, which is a bummer, but we'll take what we can get. Let's see how this 2008 graphics card can hold up in some benchmarks. Hey, if Minecraft doesn't got us, Voxel Libre does, which is, close enough. Overall, it runs perfectly fine, a decently stable 60 FPS experience, if only because trying to set the limit to 120 didn't work, for some reason. This was kind of supposed to be a joke entry, but it was quite an enjoyable experience taking a look at an open source Minecraft for those who just don't want to deal with Microsoft or can't really buy it otherwise. But for those of you who can, I didn't even know Minecraft could install on Linux before this video, much less run like it did. Then again, this game certainly isn't the hardest to run, so long as your CPU can handle the processing tasks required. Running the latest version of the game and using pretty low settings like fast, no fancy lighting, we were frequently in the 80 to 100 range for our FPS, which is actually pretty good for what I was expecting. Even in busier areas like a village, we still hovered around that 60 FPS mark, which I find to be a very good result. To keep it above 60 FPS at all times, keep your chunks around the 9 to 10 mark, although if you do want to push things, you are able to get around 15 chunks and still get about 40 FPS even in those busier scenes. It was surprising to see just how well Minecraft ran on Linux and is a very welcomed result. The simpler 2D games like Gravity Circuit or Axiom Verge is not an issue to run, even on an aging graphics card like this one. They maintain their 60 FPS mark with no dips or even stutters. If you're looking to run some 2D games and have a graphics card like this lying around, you could do much worse. Just be sure to check if it's supported natively first, as I'm sure Batboy would have run just fine as well, but it's sadly unsupported. And again, Proton is just all kinds of broken to even consider. Ooh, maybe I spoke a little too soon. Terraria on Linux here seems to require just a bit too much for it to run at a full 60 FPS, leading to a major slowdown in how the game runs. Although Frameskip does come to the rescue, as by turning it on, the game feels much smoother to play at the cost of a little bit of jankiness. It's playable, but I guess it might just be a bit too new for the graphics card to properly handle. We are using open source drivers after all. This kind of thing is to be expected when you're trying to play on Linux. 3D indie titles like this can in fact be pretty rough to run, because even a game like For the King, which you might not think of as intensive, can bring this card to its knees with little hope of recovery. Lower than 30 FPS makes this game borderline unplayable, even at 720p, not to mention the audio crackling make it absolutely unbearable to listen to. Unfortunately, running it natively on Linux is a no-go for this graphics card. Oh, truth be told, I did not think of this as a game that would struggle like this, but I suppose it's just recent enough to blow up our GPU. Anything at 1080p is near unplayable unless you use the low preset, and even then you'll burn your eyes in Candyland without having any shadows. 768p with medium just gets you over that 30 FPS mark, which for a slow game like this is just fine. And you get shadows included. Although, once you go to the Customize tab, the textures break, requiring a restart. Interesting, but not the weirdest problem I had, no. That would be the audio. What in God's name is that noise? It's like a fucking hard drive trying to deal with a Windows update. This is all captured to an Elgato card, so it's not like it's background noise, and it's definitely tied to the ambient slider in the menu. Did the GPU try to play back a sound file but didn't know how to handle it? I've got no idea, and frankly, I might go buy some holy water. Half-Life 2 is surprisingly working pretty well here, seemingly hovering around that 70 to 90 FPS mark. Granted, scenes with heavy physics or even using the flashlight can see us dropping down several frames, even down to the 30s at times. I wonder if that's an issue of how the GPU handles Vulkan shaders maybe. Should we drop down to a more error-appropriate 768p, we gain a massive FPS increase, which offsets those dips very nicely. Try as I might, I really couldn't get it to drop below 60 in the small test I did. It may not be full HD quality, but we gotta take what we can get. At least there's no audio issues, right? Left 4 Dead 2, a game released in 2009, is doable, albeit with low graphics settings, but we do have a bit of anti-aliasing to help out just ever so slightly. Hovering around the 40 to 50 mark, we've got some major fluctuations that can dip as low as in the 20s with the massive hordes of zombies and flames all around, especially in that crescendo event of that first level. Dropping it down to a more appropriate 768p, however, gives us much better results, averaging around that 50 to 60 mark with an occasional 70s and even 80s. Although once again the crescendo event drops us into the 30s, which is still much more playable than in our full previous HD resolution. I would say running it natively, it can work well, but you should very much temper your expectations since the frame rate isn't exactly stable, much like in Half-Life 2. It was at this point I noticed something off. Sometimes when I exited out of a game I was benchmarking, every so often the audio driver seemed to just glitch out and become delayed, which became much more evident whenever I was trying to listen to music on YouTube or test the audio in the settings. Seems to be about a 2 seconds of delay here. No matter what I did, the only recourse in fixing it was to restart the whole computer. There are many potential reasons this could be, from Linux to my capture card, to maybe just the graphics card itself, but either way it was quite a nuisance and annoying as hell. An even rarer instance, all the audio cut out entirely when I was trying to test out Polytopia. Very, very strange. Overall, I'm very split on this graphics card for modern usage. I wouldn't say it's usable, because these audio issues are severely hindering it from being a truly worthwhile experience as even a display driver. Not to mention the fact that the average Joe really isn't going to want to deal with a whole operating system just to make this thing work in the modern day. Truth be told, this was always kind of doomed to be used in retro machines running older operating systems, but I do have to commend it for putting up a damn good fight in a modern operating system, and with drivers not made by the manufacturers on top of that. Unfortunately, unless you already have this GPU lying around or literally only have $20, there's gonna be much better secondhand GPUs to choose from that'll be much better supported, probably even by Windows 10 standards. Although, if you absolutely need S-Video, no need to look elsewhere, I guess. I would like to thank you all for watching. Another video was long overdue, I know. If you liked what you saw, I have a similar video covering the GTX 970 and have more GPU videos planned for the future. I wish you all a good day, and I'll be sure to see you all next time.